Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another Halloween themed movie spoiler review. And today we'll be talking about another Universal classic horror monster, the Wolfman, made in 2010, starring Benicio del Toro and Anthony Hopkins, and Hugo Weaving and Emily Blunt. And it's pretty much just like when I did my review for Dracula Untold, which you can check out on the channel. It's one of the first Halloween themed movies that I did for the start of October. There's been a lot of reviews, so clearly a lot of you guys feel the same way as I do about how it's pretty much like a cult following at this point, as far as like it being still a pretty good Dracula movie, and could have been like a good start for. Clearly, it was meant to be like the start of the Universal monster shared universe, but the box office wasn't like up to snuff. And at this time, well, I think this came first before Dracula Untold. So I mean, like, this movie went through a couple of directors before uh, it came down to the current director, which was Joe Johnston. And I mean, critical response after the movie came out, it was a bomb at the box office with a budget of 150 million and the box office revenue being 142.6 million. So clearly it didn't do well. But I'm curious to know what you guys thought. I mean, like, legit, like, from the audience perspective, if you've seen this film, did you actually think it sucked? Because overall, I don't think it's a bad film. It wasn't like great or like a standout thing, but what did it achieve through the storyline is what I would honestly expect from a Wolfman movie to play out. Honestly, I mean, throughout like the movies, there's certain subtle hints to other, like, the American Werewolf in London, and uh, uh, the original 1941's Wolfman. There's like certain like references and names being dropped that you will hear. Even like Hugo Weaving's character is like he stars as this inspector named Francis Aberline, who's loosely based on Frederick Aberline. And like, Frederick Aberline, from what the movie mentions, uh it was like the way like the time frame of the story goes, he was part of the investigation of the Jack the Ripper case, uh around, at least like a little bit before getting to this point in the time frame of dealing with this so-called wolf creature. Uh, uh, I'm just trying to say, like, because I'm pretty sure this is like a real life person. Yeah, it's based off a real life person who was in charge of the Jack the Ripper case. So he was used to be able to like be the head of the investigation of this wolf creature. So we begin with like this wolf creature killing because Anthony Hopkins plays John Talbot, while Benicio is playing Lawrence Talbot. Now, his older brother Ben Talbot, early in the movie, is being chased by this wolf creature and end up being murdered. So his girlfriend or fiance, played by Emily Blunt, that the character is Gwen. uh, Gwen Conleaf. Yeah, I keep blanking on the last name. Gwen Conleaf, who goes and finds Lawrence. He's an actor, and pleads with him to return to London to help figure out what happened to Ben. Now, of course, Lawrence, being estranged from his family, especially his father, as a young man, at least a young kid who witnessed the apparent suicide of his mother, he was sent to a London hospital for psychiatric treatment for a year. But then he just grew distant, especially from his father, where he just went on his own, became a famous actor. But her pleas eventually convinced him to return home. And obviously, like, there's still animosity between him and his father. He does his own investigation in town, overhears how, like, Ben was like, because there was these local Romani, or the way they used to be named, gypsies. This group of Romani people who have settled nearby London to establish a little land to work, essentially, or at least make some trades. Now, of course, gypsies at that time weren't looked upon favorably to a lot of people, because given that their old name being derived from the word gyp as swindle, a lot of people, like, were very prejudiced against them. Their culture was so otherworldly in their eyes, because the British people at that time was very, very well, a lot of people, not even just the British at the time, but a lot of people was very superstitious, thinking like they're into black magic and stuff like that. And it caused like animosity between the various people. Ben being like the go-between, because he knew they were just people, so he was like the ambassador, essentially. So they kind of like understand to leave the Romani people to their devices and let them go about the business with, like, if you want to trade with them, do so, but leave them be. Don't mess with them, and they won't be overstep their bounds. So it's kind of like live and let live kind of situation. But because of Ben's death, because apparently when Lawrence went to go see the body, it was mutilated, beyond, like, nearly recognition, with claw marks and everything like that. It was like huge gashes. It was like, it's tough to see. Like, well, props to the makeup department in this movie, because they actually won a Saturn Award despite the box office bomb. Thanks to Rick Baker for in the makeup department, because what he did to make this, maybe this part of why I enjoyed it, and at least give it a pass, because the aside from maybe like the transformations from like the man to Wolfman, there was like practical look, the way it was set up. Like, it took like 3 hours to put together the Wolfman look for Benicio, and like an hour to take it all off. But everything looks like, because they was Rick and Benicio was very adamant on making sure this looks like the like very, like, in honor of the original Wolfman in 1941. It's like one of those old Hollywood classic films that, to this day, if you're like a avid film buff, appreciate, and it's like part of history. And they acknowledge that, and they want to like kind of revitalized that love again for modern audience of the time. Uh, I definitely appreciate it because there's a scene because like very little CGI is used in this. Rick wasn't like too thrilled on using like CGI for the transformation. He wasn't even part of that, unfortunately. He was disappointed in that fact, but I but I still like enjoyed it. The way they symbolized the transformation is definitely unique that you don't see in like past Wolfman related or werewolf related films. And I mentioned before in my Dracula Untold review that they'll be making, after the success of The Invisible Man in 2020, Universal is on board, and I'm pretty sure they're in the middle of shooting or whatever of the new Wolfman movie starring Ryan Gosling, and maybe like the transformation would probably be even better than it was back in 2010. You would think so, because 11 years old at this point. But the CGI, I don't mind it because the way, because it's at the by the time Benicio or Lawrence, I should say, actually transforms, is already halfway through the movie. You don't get to see the full Wolfman until halfway through the freaking film, which I admire the restraint on that. Because like a lot of people just want to get to the Wolfman. Maybe that's probably one of the gripes with most people who would like, let's get the Wolfman right away. Let's like, but it's like I like that. I think it was like, I respect the restraint the director had with like, no, we want to make sure we get to know these characters before we get to the monster. So that way, by the way it ends, you understand, the path and everything like that is chosen, and like you feel, because old classic horror films, you feel for the monster, and you need to feel for the monster. If like personally, I think if you put in like the Wolfman, at least establish Wolfman too early, you might lose the sympathy you have for the man underneath. But Lawrence eventually goes to the Romani village that's on the outskirts of London, and he talks with the head Romani lady, who's named after one of the characters from the classic Wolfman 1941 movie. And I thought that was pretty cool. Like I said, they really paid some homage to the to the like the most iconic werewolf movies in history. Like maybe at some point, maybe next year in Halloween or October, I should say, I do a review for the American Werewolf in London, because I thought that was pretty like a good werewolf movie. Because honestly, maybe I'm a little biased where I cut this movie some slack than probably the critics of the time did, but maybe because I'm just a little biased because I love vampires and werewolves more so than any other classic monsters. But honestly, it should get a lot more love than it did before. I think if you rewatch this, you might get something from it. I'm not saying it's like it's better than probably like the original Wolfman movie, but it's just, in some cases, it's its own niche. But when Lawrence is in like the village, trying to investigate, see like what they know about Ben's last whereabouts. It was like, is there something going on and everything like that? And then this wolf creature attacked the village, or at least the killing like a few Romani people. And then as one child was being chased, Lawrence give chase with like a shotgun in hand to help the kid, being bitten in the process. Uh, but I gotta mention this before like I'm not forgetting, because like if you're gonna watch this for the first time, or if you had watched this for the first time, or if you want to rewatch it again, they don't shy away from certain like gory scenes, because to this day it sticks out. Because I remember, I don't know if it was from the trailer, but when I first saw, like, definitely when I first saw it, I didn't see it in the movies. I first saw this when it went on TV eventually. But there was this moment that still stuck out in my head where it's like the Wolfman is attacking these several Romani people. One dude was looking through the stagecoach, and then like you see like this like gory but beautifully shot a moment where like the Wolfman like does his claws right through the throat and outside the mouth, and to yank him in to kill him. And I was like, that is like, in certain shots are just intense shots, and it's like it makes you turn away and cringe a bit, because kind of, it's not gore porn, but it's the right amount of gore where you are impressed by the cinematography and the direction that's being put into this, because this is a Wolfman, and like the Wolfman, by with all intents and purposes, is a large animal. Which, by the way they set it up is like the Wolfman has to be like almost like the kind of big as like an ape or a gorilla with like wolf features. That's how they kind of like arrange it to make it like like by today's standard, or at least 2010 standards. I'm not sure what they're gonna do with the Ryan Gosling version in the future, but I really appreciate that, because like they had to work with what they had at the time of the 1941's version, which is fine. And like, of course, during their transformation, it's more like shot for shot layers from regular man, hairy, then hairier, then full-fledged Wolfman. And it's like shot like like layer upon layer, each moment into like one single shot kind of thing. It's like it's shots, is direction and cinematography cinematography of the day. But now we actually can, with help of CGI, and I'm pretty sure they're gonna probably have to use a bit of CGI in the Ryan Gosling version, but you get to see like a little more bit of transformation. And I can't recall like a through transformation with like the bones cracking and like because like the bones cracker is morphing into different skeletal structure and enlarging to make him bigger, and it's like I love that, because like you can feel and understand the process and see the process, because you don't get, not even in American Werewolf in London, you get to see the process, because it's still better technology at that time than it was in the 40s. But it's like you shoot one shot where he's like got teeth, another shot he's a little bit hairy, and then it cuts away into another shot where he's full-fledged kind of a wolf. Even in Teen Wolf, they kind of did something similar, but the technology still wasn't there. But this is probably arguably the first time you actually get to see the full process of the transformation, and I love it. But Lawrence get treated by the local doctor, and apparently, like according to the doctor, it's like if if it was like, the other day, I probably would have said you wouldn't have used that arm ever again, but it seems to heal itself because it's healed unnaturally. And according to Lawrence himself, he feels almost better than ever. Then, matter of fact, early in the film when he shows up to see his father for the first time in a long time, he has dogs that constantly bark at Lawrence because he's unfamiliar to them. But during this point, he's almost like has complete control over them because dogs respect like the alpha among them, and they recognize the alpha immediately. So when the inspector comes in, answering, being brought in on a case to find this, what he thinks is just a madman, but while he's being told like he's actually, suspected creature, or even if it's a madman, the locals are just blaming the Talbot residents because they all believe it's just a cursed place. And I like this from Hugo Weaving's character when he's in the local pub, and like this bar waitress, just standing over him, and he's like, something I may help you with. Like, why aren't you not over there in arresting in the Talbots? The whole place is cursed. Well, being cursed is not grounds for me to get a warrant to arrest them. And considering the killings has been occurring, let's say like such and such, yards away from this pub, from different directions that I can easily get to quickly, then this is a place I might be. So that way, I don't have to waste my time trying to travel all over the place. I can easily get there. This is the central hub. That's where I'm sitting here. And it's like I like the dialogue from Hugo Weaving. Like, I'm an inspector. I know, I've been doing this for a while. I know, the focal point where I can easily gain access to a certain direction if I need to go there, if there's something arising. And she pretty much shutting her up really quick after she trying to spout like just nonsense and just superstitious hearsay. Then Lawrence, after realizing, like, seeing, giving him like, oh, this, being like, John has his like servant, this sheik named Singh, who's been like the Alfred to his Bruce Wayne throughout this whole time, warning this, Lawrence, like, this place actually is cursed. And then Lawrence sees like this, like, he keeps silver bullets for his shotgun or elephant gun that he maintains at all times, just in case. He follows his father towards his like crypt that he keeps like mementos of his late wife and everything like that. And like it's the first time he obviously Anthony Hopkins is probably at least the original Wolfman, but he locks himself in while he watches as his son begins to transform. And then you get to see like this awesome first, like, this is the halfway point, and this is like the awesome part where like Lawrence as the full-fledged Wolfman starts going into like the forest and killing off any kind of hunters that's trying to capture this creature. And he set up this like trap, like just like any good hunter would like set up like a this little hole where they catch larger prey. But you get to see like when the way it's shot when he like running on all fours, and you get to see like this still shot of him just like just the way it's shot, where he's running on all fours, is like beautifully made. Uh, like I don't understand, like the hate it gets. Like I honestly don't get. I mean, I kind of get it, but I don't get it because it's actually if I would give it like a letter grade, I would say like at least a solid B or B minus at the most. It's a decent B movie. I mean, like it's not like it's not terribly made. Uh, but he's charging, seeing these well, they're using this deer as bait, and he's charging, and he falls into this trap, and some stupid hunter, try to lean over this, see, and like not taking precautions or anything like that, he gets yanked down, and like you get to see like him, getting torn through, and like obviously didn't make the hole larger or deeper, I should say, to make sure to compensate. Well, they don't know what they was dealing with. They just made it big enough. It seemed big, but it's like he ended up jumping out or being able to get out and start just slaughtering this group of hunters. One dude tried to run, shooting at his gun and missing all his shots. Straight up stormtrooper kind of aim, and then he gets caught in this quicksand. And it's almost hilarious the fact that he did not count his shots, and then he's trying to shoot himself to avoid just getting mauled, and it's like he's empty, and then this shot where like the Wolfman just decapitates him right off the bat. And of course, when like the inspector hears all these gunfire, then in the wolf's howl, he quickly get on his horse to get to the area, and you just miss the creature entirely and seeing all this dead, slaughtered bodies all over the place. Then they just went to go pick up Lawrence because he's found with like blood all over him, torn clothes, very Hulk-like situation. And of course the Hulk is kind of like based off of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but some cases the Wolfman as well. They take him to this insane asylum where he's being like obviously psychiatric facilities of that time was just grotesque because he was being just experimented on and what have you. It's pretty much just torture, all intents and purposes. And while he's chained up in his room, his father explained that he is the original Wolfman. He's the one who killed his mother and his brother. When those are the only two times he's normally locked up by Sing to prevent being getting out and causing damage. But I'm not sure what the explanation was with the mother. Maybe it's because that was probably the first time he changed. Yeah, that was the first time he changed. He ended up killing his mother, and then he got drunk one night and fought off Sing, so he ended up changed, and then he went out and he ended up, pretty much slaughtering his own son in the process. Because he tells the story how he was on this expedition in India. He came across this child who had the case of lycanthropy and was bitten, and then when he got home, he became like during the first full moon, he became a full-fledged Wolfman. At this point, he's pretty much like mentally gone. He's like, he's succumbed to like, his monstrous side, and he's, foregone his humanity at this point. He's resigned himself to like, I'm just gonna, just live as like a Wolfman. And it's like every full moon, I will just prey. I'm willing to prey on the anybody who's in my way. I'm a monster now, so like I'm just gonna embrace it. He throws Lawrence a razor, old school shaving razor, to like, if you want to commit suicide, be my guest. But There's no way you're gonna stop me, or you can just succumb to the creature like I have. Uh, uh, Later on that night, when the doctor that was been like quote unquote treating Lawrence brings him in front of this audience of men to subject him like uh, to like this big case study. He's like, he is delusional. He believes he's a Wolfman. I am going to break that delusion by putting him in front of this big glass window with like when the moon shows, we're gonna see. He's gonna see for himself that he's not a monster. He's just a man, just like everybody else. Uh, and then like, oh, and I just want to bring this up because I never noticed until like I checked like the little factoids on Amazon Prime. If you look closely in this scene where like they take the gag off and like Lawrence start giving his warning, like I will kill all of you, like or like really like kill me, like, or I'll kill all of you. And it's like when he says I will kill all of you, that moment, look closely at his eyes because it was brief, but you blink and you miss it. It's very brief. You look at it, his eyes glow briefly yellow. It's like it insinuating his transformation is starting. I thought that I never noticed until like when I go through like the little factoids, and it's like when I looked at it, holy crap! I watched this movie at least a handful of times over the years, and I never had noticed that part because like it's so quick, and I until like I looked closely and it's like it was very well done. There's subtle things like that shows that this movie didn't suck, honestly. Uh, 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 um, then he's starting to change, and then like he slaughtered the doctor and a few orderlies, and then another awesome shot when he's like tossed the doctor's dead body through the window and it lands on like the spiked fence outside. And then because there was this funny moment when it's like he's trying to like the doctor's trying to break out, and like of course it's like locked, and he got like one of those janitor's keys where it's like a bunch of keys on one ring, and you can't like get to the right one right away, and it's this doofus of janitor who's standing outside. And it's like, open the door, and it's like it appears to be locked, sir. I was like, no shit, like you dumbass. It's like you see like he has glasses on, but he act like he's blind, and it's like I don't know if he's a special needs or something like that, but it's like you clearly see like even if he's not, because I don't believe he's like that. He's just like a complete idiot because you don't see the panic on his face and a bunch of people charging the doorway. You don't think to yourself to like open the freaking door. Like he's like I don't know. That was like you talking about like dumb characters. It's probably one of the few dumb side characters. It's like just don't read the room or read inside the room. But the Wolfman escapes and he's like charging on leaping off of rooftops and stuff. And like there's this moment when like the Wolfman jumps off the building and lands on the ground. He lands on top of this person at the bottom. That wasn't CGI. That was like practically shot. It was like because they try to use as little CGI as possible, which I respect. And like Rick Baker didn't really want to use CGI with the transformation, according to him, but they went with it regardless. But it's like if they was going to use CGI, I'm just glad they just put it towards something like transformation. And it's like if you're going to use CGI, I'd rather you use it on that than just load the film with nothing but CGI, because some movies around that time, at least up until even sometimes this time, is over reliant on CGI, and like that's something that it kind of gets on a lot of people's nerves when a director doesn't know how to use CGI the right way or the right amount. So the Wolfman going through Scotland trying to escape, uh, killing people along the way, and he finds his way into this gutter where he's drinking the local water river, uh, just like any like deer or animal, just leans over and starts lapping it up. And then by the next morning, he's like human again. He meets up with Gwen, which I wouldn't say she's useless because that'd be going too far. She, uh, it's hard to put it. She doesn't seem like she does enough, but she goes to the Romani leader to try to find like a cure, but it seems like there's only by this point she actually do anything about it. It seems like the first half of the film she seems kind of like, you know, one of those prim and proper ladies that's like letting the men do their thing or whatever. It's like, like doing anything is unbecoming of a woman kind of attitude. It just seems very sidelined. I think that's the proper way to describe it. It wasn't until like at this point when he's running to her, clothes ripped and dried blood and everything like that, that she decides to like help, and they form some kind of romance, which seems kind of unexpected and quick. And it's like, this is your brother's former fiance that you are having like a romantic feelings towards, and it seems that part seems fast. I don't know about force, but it definitely seems fast. And it's like you really didn't spend all that much time. I mean, you spent time, but not all that much. Though, at best, you should have formed some kind of friendship. But you seem like you jumped to romance kind of fast. I do have a con against that. That seems pretty quick, and I kind of out of nowhere. Like you like her because she's like the only hot girl in this entire movie. Not saying like the women in this film are ugly or anything, but she's like the main lead, so you have to have romantic feelings with her, and it's like that just seems kind of quick. And then in the second, like getting to the third act of the film, she seems like she wants to then do something, trying to find a cure, when she could have possibly tried to do that at least halfway through the film, but they kind of brought her back. Like, well, I won't say brought her back. She's been here, but just like in spurts, and like she's definitely prominent. It's just the second half she seems kind of like almost forgotten. But the first and third act, she's like a little bit more prominent, and it would have been nice to like, get more of the. If there was going to build some kind of like romance, she should have stayed all throughout the movie and not just, the first and third act. When she goes to the Romani leader and she, expresses that she wants to, find a cure. She, the Romani leader asks like, "Do you love him?" She doesn't answer. She kind of hesitates, and it's like, love. They even like each other? I mean, like, I'm pretty sure they like each other, but it's like, do you even consider him a friend, let alone like a lover? Like, it's just like, I don't know. But she doesn't really give him much of a answer. That's another thing. I mean, in American Werewolf in London, I think that's the only movie that I recall that actually specifies some kind of cure to being a werewolf. And in that, you are supposed to, eat the heart of the wolf that end up biting you. But I'm pretty sure that in every other werewolf movie interpretation, that isn't like a thing. It's not like where vampires, with like sunlight stake through the heart, where they're like that is like the thing that always stayed in place throughout every interpretation of a vampire movie. But like the only thing that stayed with weaknesses of a werewolf is just silver bullets. But and then cutting off the werewolf's head is another way to kill a werewolf for good. But um uh it's not really like a known cure for vampirism either. Usually when you're like from human to monster, they usually, that's stuck. But um Lawrence, goes back to kill his father. He goes back to the mansion and sees Singh dead, and like he's trying to shoot his father, but like his father a long time ago, like uh kind of removed like the gunpowder or something from like the shells, and it's like you did this whole time, but you still had Singh lock you up. I mean, it's like, were you expecting to change your mind at a certain point? I don't know. But they end up changing into werewolves, and like they attacking each other, end up causing like a fire in the house. And yeah, at first, like, John getting like the upper hand until werewolf Lawrence kicks him into the fireplace, causing him to burn up, and then he decapitates his own father. The inspector and Gwen, comes in. uh uh the Wolfman ends up biting the inspector before chasing after Gwen near this gorge. Somehow there's a gorge near uh this mansion, and for a brief moment when she reached Lawrence's consciousness underneath the Wolfman for a brief moment, causing him to pause. And as he's distracted, she ends up shooting him with like the inspector's gun that has silver bullets in it. And he reverts back to his human form and dies in her arms. And then the movie ends with the inspector looking in the moonlit sky, realizing his doom, that he'll be the next Wolfman, and the movie ends. Like I said, it's like sometimes, just like with Dracula Untold, or even the classic Universal monsters back in the day, they're supposed to be tragic characters that are the main leads of the film. I won't even call it protagonists. They're kind of just the main leads. It's kind of like when I did my review for Death Note, which is on the channel that I just put up. It's like, you can have like the villain being the main lead. He doesn't really qualify as a protagonist. Protagonist is like hero through and through of the film. This is like, he's good in a way that like he understands what he's doing. He doesn't like it, but he just can't help it. It's not his fault kind of situation. So it's not even like necessarily an antagonist. You can make it like a pro/antagonist, but you can just say like he's just the main lead. And just like of the classic horror movie monsters of old, it usually ends in a tragedy that you feel for, the main lead's circumstances. Because by and large, except for maybe Dracula, by and large, it's not something that they necessarily want it to happen. And it is happenstance. They have to do it. It's kind of like Galactus in Marvel Comics, where he's like a very old alien that acquired, is like an space explorer, and he acquired this he was like search for knowledge, and in his search he became part of this power cosmic that turned him into Galactus, the World Eater, and he just loses his sense of self in a way that only he has to devour worlds to sustain himself, because he's just fueled by hunger in a way. And it's not something that is his fault. It's something that he has to do, otherwise he will die. And it's one of that kind of tragedy things. They just these classic universal monsters fall prey to like the monster within. Next week I will do the new Invisible Man movie as for the last week of October for Halloween review. That and a couple of other things. But honestly, I think this is it's a solid film. Like I said, this can easily be like a B or B minus. Uh, you know, a lot of people like even didn't even consider this movie an average movie by I'm not sure. Like, I'm leaving it up to you guys to let me know if y'all consider this like a solid B movie, because I don't want to go any higher than that. I don't think it's like it's definitely certain improvements that could be made, but it wasn't as terrible as like they're making out to be, because it like didn't do well at the box office. Dracula Untold didn't do well in the box office either. There's plenty of movies that didn't do well in the box office at first, but had like a following soon after. But it probably didn't help. They had to go through a couple of directors before the movie eventually got made. But honestly, this is it's an alright film. Definitely by only watch is usually around Halloween. I don't. To be honest with you, I don't often come back to this unless it's around Halloween time. Any other time of the year, I don't really feel compelled to watch it. Unless, I mean, maybe on rare occasions, because it have been a long time. Every once in a while, when I pop in, is as I recall it, is usually around Halloween time. But yeah, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff to Talkative Carl on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Let me know what you guys think about 2010's The Wolfman. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon for another review. Take care, and look forward to next week. Wrapping up the Halloween theme movie reviews. So I will see you guys soon. Peace.